Okay. All right. Today is July 25th. This is the Oscoda Township regular board meeting. We'll call this to order at 7:02. We'll start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance, which the flag is on its way up to the front as we speak.
It is moving.
So we will wait until it is put in its place. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you again for bringing that up. We will start with roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings? Here. Ms. McGuire?
Here.
Mr. Spencer?
Here.
Mr. Palmer?
Here.
Mr. Sutton here. Mr. Worcestebarth?
Present.
Ms. Richards?
Here. Earlier today, we had a couple agenda additions emailed out. Was there anything besides those two?
No, I did, I'll get to the rest when we get to it.
Okay.
There's just one other that needs to be postponed, but I'll just wait till that.
Okay, so the two agenda additions that we have would be, the first one would be under our consent agenda, under finance, letter D, July 22nd, DWRF and the CWSRF payments. And then under, I guess my thought would be to put the CIP purchase under the superintendent's report. Is that all right
Yes.
with you? Okay. So then I would suggest that under the superintendent's report, we had number 6, Old Orchard Park CIP tractor purchase. Is there a motion to approve those two agenda items?
So moved.
Support Sutton?
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer and support by Mr. Sutton for those two agenda items. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Worcestebarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on then to the first of two public comment sections. The first public comment, you need to fill out a card, and it needs to be a topic on the agenda. So do we have any comment cards this evening?
No.
Okay. We do have a second public comment section at the end of the meeting, and you don't have to have a comment card for that, and you can speak on any topic at that time. Okay, so then moving on to the consent agenda. First, we have the approval of the minutes. We have the regular meeting minutes from July 11th. I had gotten with Josh a little bit before the meeting with a couple corrections. Sorry, I can hear something in the background. It just was distracting. A couple suggestions or corrections, but those weren't emailed out to everybody, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and I didn't bring them with me, so they were just a couple things on wording, so, and motions.
Yeah, I had two on here,
Okay,
corrections. They both have to do with the request to sell township property.
Yep.
On the first one, the yays and nays are reversed.
that's the one I pointed
Yep.
out as well.
Okay, and the second one was, I did not support the motion that was made the second time around.
Yes, that was Ms. McGuire, supported a motion by Ms. Richards.
Okay.
I had given them those same two. And
Okay.
then I actually had a correction on my comments that he had put on, so.
And then I had one from Mr. Scholes as well for spelling his name in the comments.
Okay. So are we good with those two corrections? All right. And then for finance, we have a payment of bills. First on is the prepaid from July 14th in the amount of $15,000. Are there any questions there?
I had just one question. We're still making a payment on the awning janitorial service.
Yeah, I think that's on actually the July 19th run. I have a question as well. So, but first on the July 14th, were there any questions on that run?
No.
Okay. And then July 19th, as you indicated, Bill, I had the same question. We have Ani Janitorial Services And then in the amount of $4,000, a little over $4,000. And I had called Josh on it, but,
Yes, and that's due to, we still hold the contract with the VA until they have a contract with the new owner, so we're still intaking the rent and still paying for the VA services.
So we are still taking
Yes.
the rent.
Yeah,
And
be-
and there was also a payment for Ani for the boiler inspection of $5,000?
right, that's on the 720, yeah, on the 726 run. But I had a question also on the July 19th run. We had Frank's Keys, we have new keys for the storage in the amount of like $1,600.
Yes, we had to have the locks redone because we had one key open to every room in the building on that end for storage, and each individual, especially the clerk's office, has to have their own key, and we had other people going into other people's rooms, which we can't have. So we had to have individual locks made for each door.
Okay, all right. All right, and then any other questions on the July 19th run? Okay, and then the July 26th run, again, I had the same question, Bill, in regard to the property O&M paying the boiler inspection fee of $5,000 to the state. Are we supposed to still be doing that?
So is that a Goyette bill?
Yes.
So my office reached out to Goyette because that bill, if you actually could see it, was from July of 2021, which we just received. And we questioned it because it is a year old, and it is an actual bill. They were having some issues at Goyette, and we hadn't gotten billed for services from last year. So it was a bill we actually did owe from last year boiler inspection.
Okay. So this is from 2021?
2021.
Okay.
And then we do have the one that was emailed this afternoon. Again, that was the DWRF and the the CWSRF payments. Any question or comments on those? Okay. With that, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as written. Support, Spencer.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Westerbarth and support by Mr. Spencer to approve the consent agenda with those couple changes that we made to the meeting minutes. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to subcommittee reports and project updates. First, we have the July 2022 Township Engineering Progress Report. Rick?
Good evening, everybody. We've actually got some pretty good news tonight on two or three different fronts. The C2R funding through Eagle is nearing completion as far as identifying what's available to the township. And it looks like we will be able to get all of our remaining phases of the water main project included in that funding, along with the additional water services throughout the township that still need to be connected from recent phases of the water main and then also past water main projects. A couple of results of that evaluation by Eagle is the Lakewood Shores, I think I've got that right, is not going to be included. It falls outside of the identified plume of PFAS contamination. And then also, they will not go back and reimburse the township for this past year's DWRF Phase 4, as far as that loan goes. So those two fell off the wish list, if you want to call it that. A couple of other things that are coming through with this is the The C2R2 funding, Eagle along with it, they are pushing that for the services to be included in the funding, that we will need to get at least 50% participation in hookup with the funding for all of these phases that are coming up. If we don't get to 50%, then the funding for the services will drop off. So we need to do some strategizing at the township level on how to, ensure that we get that 50% above and beyond what we've done in the past projects over the last couple of years. Of obviously, Iosco Public Health is not issuing any new well permits or significant repair permits for wells, which basically forces individuals to hook up for a water source. And then also, again, obviously, the funding is going to be there for the well hookup or the service hookup. And then the other thing that they are pushing is that it will be moving forward this year and forward, well abandonment, and the wells will need to be capped. The residents that do hook up will not have the option of keeping that well available for irrigation. They've determined that watering grass or gardens is still a potential hazard, so they do not want that well water being irrigated on the land. So those are a couple of things that we're working on. We still don't also know exactly how they're going to distribute the funding, if it's going to be a reimbursement process or whatever. As soon as we have that, obviously we'll pass on that information. But again, good news, 8.58 million through Sue Aller's appropriation is coming through that, and we will be able to essentially get the remaining phases of the water main accomplished with those funds. Second good news is the CWRS, the pumping station project is moving along at increased pace, and the contractor won't say that he's getting close to being back on the original schedule, but we are making significant progress. He's getting all of his materials in, and his crews are on board, getting everything hooked up. We're coordinating with F&V operations and such to make sure that everything as it gets turned on and functional is working properly. And then obviously, as we get closer to the end of it, there'll be a complete rundown through the project with them to make sure everything is working properly. And then it'll be under warranty for at least, I think, 2 years. So, third and final, good news is that we finally are on the home stretch for the trail project. The real estate or easements are all in place, just finalizing the paperwork on that. The NEPA process is completed. The biological opinion was issued by the U.S. Fisheries and Wildlife on our friendly rattlesnake. And so that has met all the criteria. It is now in MDOT's hands to obligate the funds. And we're tentatively on schedule for advertising mid to late August, with a bid opening October 7th and a notice to proceed to the contractor by November 1st. So we'll finally get that project moving. And depending on the winter that we have this upcoming, we'll get started on it and as much work done as far as clearing and such through the winter. And then the significant portion of the trail work will be wrapped up next construction season, 2023. So essentially, that's my report. Any questions?
I have one question. In your breakdown for Eagle on the C2R2 funding, you have Phase J.
Yes,
Which
that's
is 142 hookups. Is that the Loud Drive Phase 2 that we did?
That's got Loud Drive in it. That's got the previous phases out on Forest and Van Etten. And that didn't hook up, those are still in there. And then additional, where there is distribution, water main throughout the township that residents didn't hook up. So that 142 is at this time our best estimate as far as those individuals that will have water main available to them that are not hooked up.
Okay, because Phase 2, the Loud Drive, was the only phase that didn't have funding.
Correct.
For the hookups.
Correct.
So that's included in here.
Right.
And I saw your email this morning from Caitlin, from Eagle. And you provided her with the information. Has she responded to you
No,
since then?
no.
Okay.
It usually takes her about a week to respond, so.
Okay.
And then I think what's gonna come back, the one thing is she's gonna want to know what is the township's plan, further plan or developed plan for making sure that we have 50% hookups. So I'm gonna reiterate at that time exactly what we've got in place now. And then again, we'll have to, at the township level, strategize on, making sure that we can commit to that 50%.
Can we show her from previous phases that we had over 50%?
Yes, I've already showed her that I think up through the project that we're wrapping up from last year, I think we're like at 73% hookup. So, and one that significantly kind of impacts that is the ones on Loud Drive that we weren't able to because there was no funding available at that time for the Loud Drive
Right.
hookups, so.
My only concern is we're awarding contracts that we don't have money for yet, potentially.
Well, that's, yeah,
Right.
right. Yeah, the money's there, we just don't know how we're gonna get it,
Yeah,
totally,
yeah.
so.
And it's not the
I
money.
think there's
it's-
one individual in the audience tonight that will be concerned, wanting to know exactly how that'll all work out.
I'm sure.
Okay, any other questions for Rick?
Yeah, Rick, what's the process going to be for the homeowner to cap the well? That's going to be at their expense, or is this?
No,
No, this will
the
be-
well cap is part of the funding, yes. So basically, everything for them to hook up to the new water main is at
It's
no
going to be
cost.
covered. Okay.
You know, then obviously they'll have a bill coming forward after that, but all the cost to hook up is included in the grant.
Thank you.
And if they don't do it now, if they want to connect moving forward, there would be a cost. We're not going to
Yeah,
hold that money.
and actually, one of the questions I sent back to Caitlin Thrust this morning in response to what she was looking for was just there, because they've alluded to that there's a time frame that this grant money will be available. So whether it's a year or two, you know, those residents still maybe can come back and latch onto that, but we haven't got that definition from them yet. So,
And
Right. I just think we need to be clear to the residents that if they don't hook up
Yes.
now, that, because there's some that are seasonal homes, and they're like, well, I really don't want that ready to serve all the time, I don't use it very often, so on and so forth. But if they don't connect, then if they ever do go to sell the property, there will be
correct.
they'll have to run it, and some of those houses sit pretty far back on some of those projects. so.
And I'm in the process right now of finalizing the draft letters to the residents with Tammy's assistance, and then also the township's attorney has taken a look at those. So we'll be getting that, and that language is in those letters this year. And then probably I'll also put together kind of a general overall notice as far as what is included in all of it, to also go out to the residents, but then maybe be posted on the township's website and all that, so that they're well aware of the opportunity that's at hand.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, just one quick question on that Phase J, the 142. Would that take into consideration, like on Loud Drive Phase 2 that we did, where we didn't have the funding to hook up? Once that was complete, some of the residents wanted the water, so they paid to hook up to it. Is there some way we can reimburse them?
Unfortunately, what we've been told is that there is no reimbursement allowed. Any funds that were expended before 3/31 of '21 are not reimbursable. And so most of those, I think, would probably fall into that timeframe.
So if we wanted to do that, we would have to
Right.
take that on as a township level.
And there are other programs that we're looking at that could possibly, there are some programs through MEDC and such that for home improvements, that if you read the language, it might be able to be interpreted that type of an improvement to your home would be included in that. So we are still exploring those opportunities to see if there's funding through that, or again, possibly maybe a special appropriations or whatever to go back and reimburse those that chose to do it, but at their own expense.
Because I think it's, that seems a little unfair to me, because these people are in a contaminated area and had high concerns about their water, their drinking water. And once we got the water mains in, they wanted the fresh water as soon as possible, and so they went ahead and paid. And it seems unfair to me that this is a problem that we didn't create, and the residents are having to pay for it. So I would like to see us find some way to reimburse those residents that paid their own money to hook up to the system. But we can talk about that another
Right.
time.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay, and then we have the water and sewer project manager updates. Kath?
Good evening. Included in your board packet was the quarterly water and sewer operation and maintenance report. So I'm not going to go through it. Obviously, there's quite a bit of information in there. As Mr. Freeman mentioned, there's been a lot of activity with the pump station project, including some unexpected work that was performed at the pump station number 8 over on Budziak off of F41, which I think you are all aware of. F&B's been coordinating with the contractors, working ahead of them to clean the debris out of the pump stations that accumulates in there from people basically flushing things they shouldn't. And so that all has to be cleared out before the work can be done by the contractor. So that utilizing the township's Vector truck, removing that material and disposing of it. Also, this time of year is very busy with seasonal residents coming in. So April and May especially, a lot of water turn-ons for seasonal residents that are returning. And then a lot of construction activity besides the pump stations, a lot of MISTIG requests. A lot of them are related to the soil boring activity that is taking place on the former Wordsmith Air Force Base. So there's a table in there in regard to the total number of work orders that are performed, and just some highlights in regard to some of the more out of the norm type activities that are in there. The contract anniversary date was May 1st, so we finalized out the maintenance allowance portion of the 21-22 contract, so that was finalized out. And so the new maintenance allowance has just started. There's only a few items on there so far. And then included also is reporting for the wastewater treatment lagoon that is done, monitored and operated, every month. So were there any specific questions or comments from the board in regard to the water and sewer O&M? Anybody?
No, none for me.
Okay,
Thank you.
great.
Thank
It's always
you.
good to see you. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the superintendent's report. We have 6 items this evening. First is the seasonal and volunteer employee wage increase.
All right. Fire Chief McGregor supplied a current list of the surrounding area volunteer fire department pay schedules. Currently, Oscoda does not pay any additional compensation to the firefighters. Based on our surrounding area departments, it appears that an ideal resolution would be to provide some relief for our firefighters by adding additional compensation. I would ask that the board consider mirroring Tawas and Whittemore by adding $10 per hour compensation after 2 hours.
Okay. Any questions? I know I have a couple, but.
Is that just for the fire run pay then, not for the meeting?
Right.
Okay.
So after they've been out for 2 hours, it would start at $10 an hour pay.
So nothing until it exceeds 2 hours.
Right.
So if it was
Well, they get
1
their-
hour and 7, in 45 minutes, it wouldn't kick in.
Yeah, they would
Nothing
just get their
but
run
Just
pay.
get their
additional.
flat, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
That's why I included everything that he had sent, because there are different options that you can try out. I talked with the clerk's office, and to keep it in budget, at least for this year, it was a good idea to start at the 10 for 2 hours, but ultimately, that's your decision.
Right. Do we have any idea how many runs actually exceed 2 hours?
I don't.
And the chief is the one that's going to be monitoring that and keeping a list?
Yes, and also keep in mind that we can and haven't been, but we can charge insurance companies, we should be. Each run that the firemen go to, we're supposed to, provide an invoice to their insurance company, which helps reimburse the township for those firefighters
Yeah, we
being there.
passed that a long time ago. Yeah.
Right, but we haven't been invoicing for those.
Who would the "we" be? Would that come out of the clerk's office, or who
Yes.
would be? Okay.
Yeah, be a coordination between me and the fire chief for
Okay,
each one he does.
Yeah,
What do we
keep it-
need to do to get that going?
We just probably should have a meeting between myself and the clerk and Chief McGregor to get together, so when they do go out to fires, that we can get that information right away and get an invoice put in.
Okay.
Tammy, do you know how long we haven't been doing that?
It's been, from what I can find right now, since probably before 2020. So it's not just something Josh hasn't done, it just hasn't been done.
Would that include like accidents where the firemen are called like a vehicle accident, or is it just house fires?
I'm not 100% sure about vehicle accidents.
I think it's just.
Yeah, it's a firefighter charge that's on every
Firefighter
homeowner's
charge.
policy in the state is $500 to be paid. And as long as we collect that, we can invoice whatever company they have for that for every time we send them out.
But we don't currently attend car accidents.
Do you know why we didn't, or why we stopped sending those invoices?
No, I don't.
Well, I'm glad we can turn that around and start doing it again.
Right. So was the chief in favor of the $10 per hour up and above 2 hours? Or was he in line
If you
with
want a
something else?
direct quote, he said, "We will take whatever you will give us."
Fair enough. Any other comments, questions? Action?
I would make a motion to approve marrying Tawas and Whittemore by adding $10 per hour compensation after 2 hours.
I'd support that. Palmer?
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Palmer, to go with the suggestion from the superintendent. Any further discussion? Great, hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. All right. Moving on to the row engineering invoices, we have quite a few. Well, 4, I guess.
Okay, your packet contains the following listed invoices from Rowe Engineering for services rendered. These invoices require Township Board approval.
Okay, so the first one is invoice 103,985 in the amount of $995. Is there any questions on that or a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the payment of the exploration trail invoice number 103-985 in the amount of $955 from 101-751-880.572.
Okay, is there support?
Support by Cummings.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings to approve invoice 103,985. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to invoice 104083 in the amount of $49,411.25. Sorry, I lost where my superintendent's report is. That was for the wastewater pump station improvements.
I'll make a motion that we approve invoice number 103083 for the $49,411.25. I know it's noted here that after reimbursement is available, but I believe that there is money available right now in that fund, so we can go ahead and pay it.
Is there enough?
Yeah.
I think it's 103, you said 103, but it's 104.
Oh, 104, sorry.
Support Spencer.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire and support by Mr. Spencer, sorry, stumbled, for invoice 104083. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to invoice 104119, that is for wastewater improvement project 2023. And the amount on that is $6,560. Any discussion, or is there a motion to approve that?
I believe that should be under the water main extension, which should come out of the DWRF fund. Checking.
Actually, I think it's for the DWRF for 2023 project, and that, I think, is going to have to be a separate checking account. So that's why we were doing it out of the regular fund and then going to reimburse ourselves once that project was approved, and we started getting reimbursements for that, but I don't know if that's,
That is very true. Anything that goes for 2023, it has to be paid separately from the
This-
2022.
This invoice is showing June 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2022. But is it, you're saying
It's
it's
for the 2023 project.
project?
So that has to be separate, and we can get reimbursement for that when that project starts.
so we're going to be opening another checking account.
For DW, separate DWRF?
Correct.
Yes.
Two DWRF checkings? Why
Yes.
do we have to do that?
Well, this year it's DWRF. The 2023 project, I think would be C2R2.
Yeah, that'll be funded through the C2R2 program. We don't know exactly how they're going to require, if
Right.
they're going to follow the same setup as DWRF, or if they're going to have their own separate process.
So in the meantime, just do it out of the
Do it out of
townships,
the-
right?
Yep.
Your normal fund, and then get reimbursed once we get that all sorted out with them.
Okay. But we're obviously going to keep track of that so that we know to get that money back.
We're tracking it,
Okay.
yes.
Which is why we didn't want to mix the two to begin with.
Well, I will make a motion to approve roll invoice 104119 in the amount of $6,560 to be paid from the DWRF checking.
Support Spencer.
No, it needs to be paid out of the common
It
checking.
has to be paid out of the common check.
Yeah,
With the, as long as you make it out of the common checking.
The common checking?
yes.
Yeah, it can't be under
General
the,
fund.
yeah,
Okay, out of the common checking fund.
yep. Okay. So there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Spencer, again clarifying that motion. It's not, it'll be under the general checking account, not the DWRF. Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to invoice 104166, as needed services in the amount of $4,803. Is there any questions or discussion on that?
What account is that? The 801?
The 101
Professional fees.
professional.
Professional. Okay. I would move to approve invoice number 104166 for as-needed services in the amount of $4,803 from account 101-299-801.000.
Support. Sutton?
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer and support by Mr. Sutton for invoice 104166. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurschbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the pump station replacement project, pay request number 8. Tammy?
Your packet contains the 8th pay request in the pump station replacement project in the amount of $1,129,628.14, leaving a total of $2,330,189.11 remaining for this project. I would ask that the board consider approving the 8th pay request from RCL Construction in the amount of $1,129,628.14 to be paid from the CWSRF checking after reimbursement is requested and deposited into the township's account.
Okay, that's a big dollar amount.
We will be waiting for that one.
Yeah. All right, any discussion or questions?
Well, being a large amount means they're getting this project wrapped up.
One would
So
hope.
that's good.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the pay request number 8 from RCL Construction in the amount of $1,129,628.14 to be paid from the CWSRF checking after reimbursement is deposited into the township account.
Support Worcester.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Mr. Westerbarth to pay request number 8. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurschbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to number 4, award Caterman Trucking Phase 3 Water Main Project Contract.
Your packet contains a recommendation for contract award from Rowe Professional Services for the Phase 3 water main. As the bid tabulation shows, Caterman Trucking came in as low bid out of 3 potential bidders. I would ask that the board consider awarding the contract for Phase 3 water main extension to Caterman Trucking Incorporated as recommended by Rowe Professional Services.
Rick, do you have something that I saw you kind of moving? You have anything to add?
Only if there's any questions I can.
Okay, does anybody want Rick to come to the podium for questions, or are we good to go?
I'm good.
I just wanted to point out that the amount that was in the letter from Rowe is the incorrect amount. The correct amount of the bid was $1,647,901. The amount that Rowe had put on their letter is what the engineer had estimated the bid would be. I believe that's correct.
So they came in a little under budget.
Yes.
Good job, Caterman. All right, any further discussions? Is there a motion?
I would make a motion to approve awarding the contract for Phase 3 water main extension to Caterman Trucking Incorporated as recommended by Rowe Professional Services.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Sutton and support by Ms. McGuire to award that contract to Caterman Construction. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurschbarth?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes. Motion passed, sorry. Forgot what the last part was. All right, moving on to the railway permit purchase request.
Your packet contains a copy of a draft railroad crossing permit from the Straits Corporation for the utility easement crossing on Phase 5 water main project. All new crossings will require this fee to be paid before they issue the permit. They offer several options. You can pay annually or by any number of years, for instance, 10 years for $2,500. There also is a lifetime option of $20,000 per crossing. Phase 3 water main project alone has 2 crossings, one on Oak Lane and the other on Oscoda Street. I would ask that the board consider approving the 10 years for $2,500 with $750 that can be reimbursed through the C2R2 grant funding to be paid from Fund 591-000-801.000.
Okay, are there any questions? Rick is at the podium to answer, I'm assuming?
I have one.
Yes.
Is this project specific, or is this just an easement for 10 years for all and any of our projects?
Both. It's initiated by.
Sounds like the government.
It's initiated by this year's request for a permit to cross, as Tammy said. What they're doing is, on an annual basis, these permits are going higher and higher. And what they're offering here with the 10-year program is after these two crossings go in, I believe the township will have 5 locations that we now have water main under the railroad. Anytime in the future that any work has to be done, maintenance or whatever, if something happens with that crossing, you're at their mercy that year of whatever that permit fee will be to go in there and repay it. So with locking it in for 10 years for $2,500 is a good bargain for the township. We don't anticipate any problems. These are all in casings and should be no issue, but you know, next year that permit fee might be $5,000. They are raising these fees almost on an annual basis throughout the state, so.
Wouldn't it behoove us then to go ahead and just pay for the lifetime? We'll keep it forever and ever, amen?
That's an option, but as Tammy and I were said, we didn't know if the funds were available or whatever at that time. But you're right, the best bargain is the 20,000 lifetime, but.
Pay it now and leave it be.
What's the, so we're only gonna get, if we do the 2,500, we get reimbursed $750 through the grant process?
Right, because those are the 3, there's 3 crossings in the upcoming C2R2 program that will be able to get reimbursed. They won't reimburse the township for, you know,
The other ones that we have?
the other
Yeah.
past the 3 newly constructed crossings.
In the contract that's in our packet, the first part of that, granting of rights, it only allows, it has a one-time administrative fee of $1,500 and a one-time permanent easement fee of $20,000. I don't see anywhere else in the contract that gives you any other options.
I don't have the document in front of me, so
That's what I was provided
from.
by Roe.
By Roe.
It is a draft, and there were some changes that needed to be made to that.
But the contract that we have presented that we will have to sign only allows for the $20,000 payment. There isn't any other language in here that I can find.
There is the 10-year option. So if, and again, as Tammy said, that it was still in the process of getting us all the documentation, but because of the upcoming schedule, by mid-August, the new phases this year we're going to be under, we wanted to get it on tonight's agenda to get approval for that.
Is that an addendum to this contract?
It'll be a separate, it would be a separate 10-year agreement, very similar to that, but it would be for the 10-year $2,500 fee.
Okay.
But at that same time, excuse me, if we pay the $2,500 now for 10 years, and the grant, I'm sorry, not the grant, but the permit fees that they're talking about continue to go up every year for 10 years, we could be at $20,000 in 10 years for that same permit. Or
Right,
we can pay for it now and be done with it.
Right, and again, the issue is if you have to go back in on any of those crossings and do any maintenance work. The water main that we're putting in, again, this is just, you know, the water main we're putting in is good for 50 to 80 years. You know, not to say that there won't be a problem, you got to go back in there. So, I mean, it's, you know.
Well, there's also, I mean, I can't imagine that we're ever going to take those water mains out. I mean, once
No.
they get installed and everybody's hooked up to it, then, I mean, this is going to be something that's there until the foreseeable future.
That is correct. The capacity of the main that we've, you know, those mains were designed for, follow the HRSA water reliability study for the next, you're right, for 20, 30 years. So there's going to be no need to increase the size of those or whatever, so.
Right, but yeah,
So it's just, it's the risk. It's, so
it almost
you're
sounds
right.
like
The-
we're gonna, we
The
take a
better deal is the
gamble.
20,000, but we just didn't know if that was something that the board would want to consider.
Have you found that in the budget at all? Is there a way that we can bring that? I mean, I know it's not, I know nobody likes to pay up front like that, but I'm telling you now, if we don't do this, we're gonna get nailed to the wall in a decade. I can feel it. That's how they do it. And he's already talking about they're raising the rates already.
Well, a
Eyebrows
good
twitching?
example, in 2019, we paid $2,500 for one easement on one water main phase alone.
So, I mean, I see that this is obviously stamped draft.
Correct.
So, but you're saying that we'd have an additional addendum to this, we can't just maybe modify what we're going to do and enter the, because this is a draft format, like Bill indicated that it doesn't talk about other options, but we're being told that there are other options. So wouldn't we just modify this
Contract.
to this contract to make that?
Correct.
Okay, so it
Correct.
wouldn't necessarily need an addendum.
No.
It would just be a change here.
Right, and then
Okay.
if you chose the 10-year option, then they would submit an executed 10-year permit option to you.
Okay, and has our attorney reviewed this contract?
No, I don't have the actual contract
Yeah,
yet.
Well, this proposed contract, I mean, this proposed easement, I mean, it's got our name at the bottom, so.
No, I didn't get it until Friday. We just needed it basically for the fee approval, and then it can go to the attorney.
Okay, so the attorney would review, because I know there's an indemnification under, I don't know, 6th B or something, I don't know. But it talks about us indemnifying them, which I don't believe that we're allowed to do. So obviously, our attorney will,
She reviews everything.
okay, all right.
Rick, I have one more question. So they're reimbursing at a rate of about 30%?
Correct.
So if we did the 20,000, we would get 30% of that back as a reimbursement?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. You
No.
would still only get the 750 because
Oh, that's it.
we can
Okay.
we can only ask for reimbursement on the new crossings. So
Okay.
there's 3 new crossings going in. So the C2R2 will reimburse you for 3 of them, the cost of 3 of them. And then, so that'll come back out of it, that'll come back into the township's accounts. And then you would have this permit in place so that if any maintenance, anything that needs to be done on those 5 crossings that you have that are currently existing and we don't foresee any need for any additional crossings in the future, then you would be covered under that $20,000. If you want the lifetime, the $20,000 fee you've paid, or the $2,500 if it's over the 10-year period.
So I guess who comes up with the 750 figure that they're going to reimburse?
I was kind of doing what you were doing,
Yeah.
based on a percentage, until we get, we're waiting on C2R2, what they're going to, how they're going to fund it. So again, until we get the exact amount for each of those 3 new crossings, because like Tammy said, we don't have a price for those 3 separately yet, because that is in the process too. So it was just based on a percentage right now, so. But we will get reimbursed for the total cost of those 3. So if they're $500, then they're $500 each. If it's $2,000, they're $2,000 each. But we will get reimbursed for those 3 individual crossings on how they break it down out of the 20,000 or the 2,500.
Okay.
Clear as mud.
Crystal.
It's the railroad.
Yeah, okay. So basically, tonight, we would be, I guess, making a decision on if we want to do the 10-year or bite the bullet on a lifetime option, and then approve that with the attorney reviewing and finalizing the document to suit those.
Correct. Then Tammy would then be able to get back with them on which dollar figure duration that you're looking at. Then we will get the final document in township, and the attorney can review it before the township executes it.
I guess what's the direction here?
Tammy basically is asking us to consider the 10-year
Right.
So there must be reasons for that.
I'm guessing budget-wise.
Yes.
In that budget item, we only approved $2,000. There's only $2,000 in that line item, right? The 591-000-801,
No, there's,
2,000.
I guess I don't understand the question.
Like overall, you mean, for
That's
the
what-
entire year
in-
budgeted?
Yeah, in that line item, there's $2,000 budgeted.
It's, it can be amended.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
just saying, that's
Yes.
what was budgeted in that line item.
Yes, I've already, yeah, planned ahead for that.
Okay. Well, I mean, I hear what you're saying, Jeremy, but in the same sense, you know, I mean, we have a lot of expenditures, including just the one we did earlier that we got to hang on to.
I
till
understand that,
2023, so-
but in the, but we're
whatever
up
the
here
board
to
wants
do what's best for the township. And what's best right now, looking into the future, is to pay the fee now for done. Never gonna have to mess with it again. We're never gonna have to worry about, oh, well, you know, a tree root got in there and broke the line, and we're on year 11, and now they want $15,000 for a 10-year. And with inflation going up, I just think it would be a wiser choice to pay for it now and be done with it, rather than take the cheap route and get nailed to the wall later.
So we paid if we did it, we would pay $20,000 now for any future railroad crossings. We'd never have an additional charge.
You'd have a lifetime permit for
any-
any of the existing
It doesn't say lifetime, it says permanent easement.
permanent.
Well, they said, because lifetime
Right.
can sometimes
Yeah,
mean a
you are
certain number
correct.
of
You are
years, so,
correct.
but it
Yes.
says in the
Right.
contract, a one-time permanent easement fee,
Okay.
permanent.
So if we want to zigzag back and forth with water main, we can just do it to our heart's content. Okay.
Correct.
I mean, in theory, how many actual crossings? We only, you know, we don't have a ton.
Like I said, in looking at the system and where future, you know, growth might be or whatever, those would be all fed off, from what we can tell, the existing crossings.
Wouldn't have them very-
We don't see really any need for any new crossings in the future, but if, you know,
I can see one.
hindsight is 20/20.
Kings Corner Road, I think, don't we have two dead ends? We got one coming off of Loud Drive and then one that ends right at Kings Corner. So if
Well,
we
we're gonna
wanted
be,
to-
we're gonna, this year's projects, we're coming across underneath the railroad at Interlake,
Okay,
so that's gonna loop back.
that's gonna close
Yes,
that loop?
Correct.
Okay.
So that's, we included that in this year's project to take care of that issue,
Okay.
so.
I think I would have to agree with Mr. Spencer on the 20,000. That way we can approve this contract that's presented, if we can appropriate the money for it.
Yes.
Big difference between 2,000 and 20,000.
Yep, about $18,000. I know math's not my forte, but yep,
Pretty close.
yep.
I don't know, I gotta disagree, I guess. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go with Tammy's recommendation since she does do the budget, and Rick is saying that we're not gonna be needing to cross the railroads that much. So
Right.
why spend the money?
Kind of where I'm at, I guess. So with that, I will make a motion that we approve the recommendation made by the superintendent for approving the 10-year at 2,500 to be paid from Fund 591-000-80100 with a contract to be reviewed and so on by our attorney,
I'll support that.
something to that extent. Okay, so there's a motion by Richards, support by Ms. McGuire, to approve as recommended by the superintendent. Any further discussion? Okay, then roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
No.
Mr. Cummings?
No.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes,
Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
No.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes. Motion carried, or passed, I mean. Sorry, let me just, a couple notes here. Moving on to our agenda addition, which is Old Orchard Park CIP tractor purchase. That information was emailed out earlier today. Okay, I believe Al? is in the audience. If you could please come to the podium.
Why couldn't I go before that last one there?
Because 6 comes after 5.
How are you guys tonight?
Good, you?
So we, in the capital improvement schedule, we have a tractor that we want to purchase. Now, we've been doing research and looking at tractors for this year since about February, and the problem we're having is either the ones we want and the size we want, like you've received, don't have front loaders, or they're gone. By the time I come back to check with another place, we want to try, they're gone already. So this one come up, and it's exactly what we're looking for. However, it's 2020, it's not brand new, but Gary and I went up Thursday and spent probably 2.5 hours up there going through this, and it's in exceptional condition. With it is 3 types of implements. So all of that included was less than what we had budgeted for a new tractor. They also included, and I just didn't say it in here, I forgot to put it in here, but Don's tractors, who I went through, they donated to the township, if we purchased this, $1,000 hookup for the front hydraulic unit, which it doesn't have, but he would donate it and put it on for us. One of the things that we had included was a snowplow, because if you all remember, this year I tried to get a snowplow truck, and we couldn't find one. So this was something that we wanted, Tammy and I had talked about for a few months, about looking at other options. This come up too. The other thing was, we didn't want anything super big. We have a backhoe right now that we take care of the big stuff with. But with the bike path coming in, and we've got to provide the maintenance for that bike path, this tractor will fit. Nothing's too big or too wide. With the plow on the front, there's also a grader and a leveler on the back. That's one of the other implements that we wanted to get. It's got front forks. There's a few other items that we were going to kind of consider for the next couple of years, but this will kind of do what we needed to do. However, it's a short, if we don't say, I want this, if I go back in 3 weeks, it'll be gone. So that's the unfortunate thing with everything, but that's the way it goes. So I talked with Tammy, and she said it'd be a good idea to get it on tonight, so.
Do you have a
I'll answer questions.
Do you have a tractor currently that does all those things?
We do not. We do not. We don't have one that has a 3-point hitch. This has got a mid and a rear PTO. We have fields that we have to mow by hand, and a little mower. We want to get a back, what do you call them, brush hog?
hog.
Cut the time down. Not a lot of people use them, but we like to keep it nice and neat for people. Anything we have doesn't have a rear. We've never had a tractor. We've got a backhoe, and this thing's huge. So, we get a storm, we've got to take care of down trees or down limbs, or we got to move something. We got the backhoe, and that doesn't get through in between campers as easy as you think it would. So, we need something a little smaller, but something with horsepower. This has 35 horsepower. It's got, according to the guy, I was looking at Kubota, and that was the other one that he had there, but this has got more lifting power than the Kubota we looked at. And it was cheaper, and the Kubota was a little older, so it's in great condition. I recommend it.
Well, this will alleviate your need for that plow truck then?
It doesn't have a cab on it, but probably.
There's not an attachment that you can put on?
There is, but it's not in the budget here, so.
Is this going to be quite a bit less expensive than the plow truck by itself? And offering
Yeah, about
multiple...
$30,000.
Oh, well.
Yeah. It's actually the guy gave me a really good deal. And they do all the service. They're right in Alpena. I don't have problems getting parts. It's a New Holland. They're dealers all around here.
So if there's a $30,000 difference, I'm sure you could put a heated cab on there.
Okay, remember that the next board meeting I asked for one.
Heated cab out of the plow truck?
That's right.
Did you give him $20 when you were there Thursday to hold it to
No,
tomorrow?
he was actually going up north and wasn't coming back till tomorrow, so as
Okay.
far as he knows, we're probably gonna, I told him, I said, we got it. That's all I said, so keep my fingers crossed. Don't want to jump my guns here. but-
I think that's a very good price. I had purchased a tractor downstate at my place down there, and this seems like a heck of a deal for all
Yeah.
the attachments and the size of the tractor and everything.
It's got 160 hours on it, which, you do the math, it's like 40 hours a week for a month, but who does that? It was purchased from the state sale, wasn't very old. Actually, the tires still have the nipples on them. So
Where,
can
do you
see
know
it.
where it was used then?
I don't know.
No.
No.
What do you think the longevity of this tractor will be? How long is it going to last?
Hopefully until I retire. Probably.
So another 20 years?
15, 20 years, yeah. I didn't say I'm gonna be there
So
that
just
long.
to tag on Jeremy's question, so this is going to replace the capital improvement item of the plow truck?
It's gonna have to right now, yeah. I can't seem to find one in the price range that we budgeted for 3 years ago.
So we're
They
going to end up
jumped
with
up.
a surplus in that situation? Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
After the cab.
Right.
So the only thing I see missing here is the sales tax.
We don't have sales tax.
We won't have to pay that, okay, then fair enough.
All right.
So then, I move that we approve the purchase of this New Holland Workmaster 35 tractor for $29,400 to be paid from Old Orchard
218
218,
Old Orchard Park Capital Improvement.
Old Orchard Park Capital Improvement.
Support Sutton.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Cummings and support by Mr. Sutton to approve the request as submitted. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, roll call then.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, moving on to resolutions. First on, we have resolution number 2022-22, a resolution to adopt community planning principles. Not sure who's Nicole or? Okay. I don't know, we didn't do a mic check on that one, to be honest with you, so I don't know if it's.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Just move it closer, maybe.
In your packet is resolution number 2022-22. It is the Michigan Association of Planning Community Planning Principles. I'm asking that the board adopt this resolution. The Planning Commission already follows most of these planning principles, and the ones that we don't, we are in process of doing so. By adopting this resolution, it's going to hold the Planning Commission to even higher standards. It'll be used during the meetings, and it's a document that they can refer to through the meetings when making decisions on things.
Okay, is there questions for anybody?
You said you were already complying with most of these things, and you're on your way to complying with all of them.
Yeah.
So if we said no to this, you would still be able to get this done, just out of curiosity?
Yes. We would still follow the ones that we are following. Just because if there was not a resolution, we wouldn't say, oh, okay, well, we're not going to do some of these general statements anymore. They would still do it. I would be able to send this resolution to Michigan Association of Planners, saying that you guys adopted it, and we would be put on their list of other communities that also follow these planning principles.
What benefit does that list provide?
We get to be on their list, so other
We get to be on it,
other communities, developers, different people can go on there and see what municipalities follow these planning principles. So it's just another feather in the cap.
So it's more of a notification to the world that, yes, we're,
Yes.
it doesn't give us any additional grant funding or any.
Right.
Okay.
Wouldn't this
Thank you.
sort of go along with the RRC certification that we recently attained? To go along with that?
Potentially. They don't work hand in hand, but
I
yes,
know.
it is just another item.
Yes.
to say, we are doing these, and since we are doing most of these, and we're going to work on doing the rest, we thought we would present the resolution and
Get it all done in one shot?
To me, it shows that we're following a defined process, and I like that, so.
I would move to adopt resolution number 2022-22.
Support by Cummings.
All right, went faster than I was ready to write. All right, so there's a motion by Mr. Spencer and support by Mr. Cummings for resolution number 2022-22. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to number 2, which is Article 5, Planned Unit Development Ordinance Amendment.
So number 2 and number 3, I am requesting be postponed. We need to have, Nicole and I need to have a consultation with the attorney before the board votes on these 2 items.
Okay,
So moved.
so there is a motion by Mr. Spencer,
Support,
and
Wusterbarth.
support by Mr. Wusterbarth to postpone those 2 items as requested. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. All right. Moving on then to other, we have the Bravada's Restorations Touch a Truck fundraiser event request for the spring of 2023.
Okay, you have an email from Jessica Bravada requesting the use of Furtaw Field for a Touch a Truck event. What she's requesting is a fee waiver to use the field on June 10th, 2023. I know it sounds a bit far out, but she's got a lot she's got to arrange and would like a fee waiver. It's for the Thin Gold Line for dispatchers. All proceeds go to that particular foundation. It's a nonprofit.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
What are they going to do out there? Touch a truck?
It's like fire engines, all kinds of, I think there was some drag racing cars, things like that, that kids really like.
Oh, so it's a child event, so the kids can come out and check out the big trucks up close?
There are a lot of adults that would like to touch
just
those
gonna
too.
say-
And myself, I will be there to check
Sure, there
out
are
the fire
grown
trucks.
children that would
Do we
probably
get to
enjoy
turn the
that as well.
hoses on and off? Just,
Probably not.
no, I just wanted to know.
Have you discussed with the attorney our policy of contributions? Because waiving a fee is considered a contribution. State law prohibits us from doing that.
All except for the nonprofit, at least according
No.
to our resolution.
No. Being a nonprofit does not make that exemption.
Well, I will have to check with her then.
Yeah, I mean,
I
we've
think-
done it in
Does
the
that make
past,
our
that's the only
resolution?
reason why we've asked, I mean, for the most part, we've given the superintendent and her assistant the ability to book Furtaw Field. It's set for if somebody's requesting a fee waiver, and the only way we've ever done a fee waiver is if it's for a nonprofit, so why would we even have,
Or community benefit.
for a community benefit?
Right.
So why would we have
There's
even
there's
done
certain
that?
criteria that had to be met, even if it's a charitable event, a 501(c). There's certain things that have to be met. Both of these are great projects, and I would love to approve this. I just want to make sure that we have the okay from our attorney that it's
So
okay.
could we make a motion,
I will make a
pending-
motion that we approve this contingent on approval from our township attorney.
I'll support that.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Mr. Westerbarth to approve the fee waiver, if approved by the township attorney. Okay, any further discussion? All right, hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried.
And may I add something? I applaud the Bravadas. My wife and I have gotten to know them this summer. They're doing a lot for the community. We've been out to their car shows, and she and her husband are really drumming up, kind of activity in the downtown, so I really applaud what they're doing.
Right, a lot of enthusiasm, for sure. All right, moving on then to number 2, the Hope Grant.
Okay. At the June 13th board meeting, I was directed to provide information on the Mish to Hope grant so the board could make a decision on pursuing this grant. The administration team has spent time evaluating several aspects of the grant, the scoring system for applicants, the deliverables of the grant, and the workload obligation this will create. We also learned that Iosco County would be submitting an application for this grant as well. It is our recommendation that we support the Iosco County application effort with letters of support and any additional support they may need to facilitate their application on behalf of the entire county. The Hope Grant is simply too large of an undertaking for the township, and based on the scoring system, it seems unlikely we would be competitive in winning the award. So what I'm asking for is approval. I believe there's a letter that would be from the township and from the Economic Improvement Committee. The EIC has not met yet, but if we could get, the application is due by August 15th. So if we can get pre-approval, at least for the EIC, and approval for the township board for a letter of support, that would be great. It is a very large project. Like, it would require an entire other employee to
Right.
take calls and distribute money.
That's kind of why I was
Yeah.
hoping that the county would take it. Do we really need 2 letters, though? Can't we just do
Jamie Carruthers has suggested, or requested to.
for more volume or whatever?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I just have a little bit of a concern in regard to what any additional help actually requires in regard to quantifying a time amount that somebody spends on it. Just,
Well, like, they've requested the housing study, anything that we have that would help out that way. I don't believe it would be like man-hours
right,
of help.
right, 'cause
Just
I mean, yeah,
assist with any information that we may have ahead of
that
time.
we already have that we could share. Otherwise, it's kind of, the reason why we're not doing is because we don't have the time to dedicate. So I would just have a concern about that. I guess, I would. I don't know about anybody else. So.
What in the scoring system made you believe that we probably wouldn't win that? Just out of curiosity.
There's quite a broad range of things.
Got any specifics that were like, oh, that disqualifies us for sure?
No.
No?
I think, I glanced through it. It seems like it would be a better county anyways, instead of limiting to
Housing
just
The
the
housing
township.
commission.
The housing, we do have a
Commission?
housing commission.
That's what my
Seems like a
thought was.
perfect fit for them, but.
And the letters you're referring to, Tammy, are the ones on pages 249 and 250 in the packet, is that right?
Yes,
Okay, so the second one is from the
It's from-
EIC director. Okay.
yes.
EI director, sorry. Okay.
All right, any action, or what's the board's?
I would make a motion to approve the superintendent and the EIC director to sign the provided letters of support for Oscoda County applying for the Hope Grant.
Support by Cummings.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Cummings, to approve the 2 letters of support as submitted in the board packet. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the lot split request.
All right. A request has been made by Donna Cotton to split Lot 369 of Jordanville subdivision. The purpose of this request is to sell the westerly 6 feet, which will be combined with Lot 370 to the west. The remaining 60 feet will be combined with the adjacent property. also owned by Ms. Cotton. This division of platted subdivision lot requires approval from the Board of Trustees.
All right, yep, there's a few pages of information in the packet. Anybody have any questions or concerns, or are we ready to approve? Looks like all the departments have signed off.
I had one question on this. I'm trying to find it here. It said that it wanted to be combined with lot 366, the remaining 369, but 369 and 366 aren't next to one another.
I think you're referring to page 252 on the form, and it's near the top when it lists parcel code. The second one is 366.
That's the 370 and lot 369.
I had the same question.
Yeah, because in the assessor's letter, it said the remaining 60 feet be combined with adjacent property 064 J6000 366. And that isn't the adjacent. The adjacent would be 368. Unless the same person owns all three.
They could be combined.
I think the parcel code is wrong in
It,
the combined request, but it's in the description they have it correct.
on page 256, it shows sublots 366, 367, 368, and easterly 60 feet is 369 altogether.
So they're proposing to combine all the lots?
So
I wish Nancy was
366
here.
includes all those lots.
I see.
No, 366 is one lot by itself.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nicole, walk us through it.
Page 252.
Okay. Good Lord, these microphones.
They have the parcel code wrong at the title, but in the description, it's 369 and 370, which matches the
I know,
plat.
but if you read,
I know if you read Nancy's letter, it's not, there's a mistake.
I believe there.
Yeah, she's got the wrong parcel code. She has the lots identified correctly, it's just the tax ID is wrong.
yeah.
So instead of being 366, it should be what was on the
It's 369 and 370.
369. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just a typo.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, unfortunately,
on the actual-
I think we need to send it back.
Right. I mean, well, on the actual permit, it's correct. It's
Yeah.
just on her summary letter, where she did the memo. It's a,
Then let's go with the permit,
Miss
because
Key.
that's the document that everyone signed off on. Then let's go with the permit.
right, I would
because
say,
that's
it's
what
yeah,
everyone
she
signed
did a
off on.
summary letter that she just,
Agreed.
I'm pretty sure I've typed the wrong number before, so, but all of her permits are correct.
Nicole?
Okay, I signed off on this on the zoning end, so I just had to take a look to refresh my memory. She wants to split off of lot 370, she needed to put 6 feet.
Yep.
So she's splitting 6 feet off of lot 369 and combining that with 370, and that's because of the structure layout. So if you look at, what page is this?
Gotcha.
To like 254, it'll show where the buildings are. And for me to sign off, they have to create a line where they're, like, it requires a 10-foot side setback. So if they want to split it the way, without that 6 feet, there was only 4 feet from the property line to a building. So they had to go 6 feet into lot 369. So it's making lot 370, I believe, 66 feet wide. And then combining 369 with that 6 feet split off of it, combining 369 to 366. So it's not the way it was originally platted, so that's why, this type of split has to come to you. It's just that 6-foot difference. So I believe the parcel numbers are all correct.
Right, besides her cover letter.
I haven't seen the cover letter.
Right.
I'm
Well,
just
there's
in
a
the
mis-
rest of it.
There's a
Yeah.
mistake on 252, just the way it's filled out. So if you go to page 252, they reference parcel 369 and 366. 366 isn't part of this, that should be 370. So I guess my suggestion would be we postpone this till the next meeting until the paperwork is correct.
Is that a motion?
So I would make a motion that we
Okay.
postpone this for the paperwork correction to come back to the board.
I support that.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Westerbarth, support by Mr. Cummings, to postpone, to allow the paperwork to be corrected and then brought back. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please. Sorry, Josh.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the Esabo Masonic Lodge event request.
We're going to table that or postpone that.
Well, we didn't technically postpone the other one. We made a motion for the attorney to review. So again, somebody else is asking for a waiver, correct?
Correct.
For Furtaw Field.
So I'll make a motion that we approve it based on the attorney's review.
Is there any further discussion in regard to the request as a whole? Okay, is there support for that motion?
I'll support that. Palmer?
So there's a motion by Ms. McGuire, sorry, Jamie. Support by Mr. Palmer to approve the request following attorney approval for that fee waiver. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, now we are at the second public comment section of the agenda. Again, you do not need a comment card to make a comment during this time period. That being said, you are limited to 4 minutes. And we will just start, I'm going to start this way. So on the far left-hand side, that row, you just need to raise your hand if you're wanting to do public comment. Anybody there? Hearing none. I'm going to go to the middle. Please raise your hand if you're wanting to do public comment in the middle section. Okay, I see one hand. Mr. Taser, come on up. And again, just as a reminder, when you walk to the podium, even though we know you, make sure you state your name when you come to the podium.
Robert Tazier, Hillcrest Drive. A couple things I want to hit on. One thing that kind of bothered me a little bit tonight was mentioned, that Ani Keys, do I understand that correct, that public records are held at Ani and somebody was going in where they shouldn't have been unauthorized going in there? Was our records compromised? I mean, you don't have to answer, I understand that. But it's a concern of mine. I would kind of like, if at some later time, somebody could follow up with me on that, because it is concerning. I want to know if my records have been compromised. I would like to say, thank everybody for the good news that happened on the 15th of July for redevelopment ready certification. This is wonderful for our community. I just wanted to express that again and express my thanks to all involved in getting that certification, now maintaining that certification. The continued effort by this board supporting that is essential, that we continue that. The next thing I wanted to talk about is a couple of things. Although I am not speaking for I'm on the Iosco County Housing Commission, I'm going to speak for them, but I will say that the HOPE grant is one of the things. I did meet with Ms. Sobolewski over at the county about that, and one of the big factors for that is they have the administrative abilities to, with the Iosco Housing Commission, to be able to review those requests, which makes it score higher on, their system is already set up for that. So that is a perfect place for this type of a grant, and appreciate that letter of support for that. And the other thing I wanted to say is I'm an executive member of the Michigan Association of Planners, and those initials, what you guys voted on to support that resolution, it does mean a lot. What it really means is that when we apply for grants, you know, not only do developers look at that certification, it's like having a PhD behind your name. If the Michigan Association of Planners gives you that accreditation, you have those initials behind you on your applications, it does mean a lot. It is helpful. They are sound principles that have been proven, and there are a lot of communities that have that, and since we're already doing all of that, it's a good thing for us to apply for that. So thank you for that. That is important. Thank you. And last of all, August 12th and 13th, Rockfest. Everything is going strong for that. It's going to be a great time. Come on out and get a tattoo. Watch a guy juggle apples and meat cleavers, and listen to some great rock music. Yes, Friday night show is more what you would consider the heavy, hard stuff, but compromised by Saturday having some really, really good rock music, local bands, national bands. They are not the headbangers like a lot of people like to say, the heavy metal. They are hard rock, and you will enjoy it, I promise you. It's relatively inexpensive. 2 days, $35 in advance. OscodaRockfest.org. Get your tickets now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Great. Anybody else in the middle section that would like to speak? Raise your hand. Last call. Hearing none. Or seeing none, I should say. Far right-hand side, anybody there for public comment? Okay. So with that then, we'll close the public comment section for this agenda and move on to board comments. Do we have any board comments this evening? I'm just going to look to my right. Anybody down there?
Fastest meeting ever.
No. Technically last time was, I think, our fastest. And I'm over here. Any board comments?
Just two comments. In the informational section, there was a payment to Lake Pro for Van Etten Lake that was due back in May, and we're just paying that now. I was just curious why that was delayed so long.
Chances are they probably didn't submit it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're still arm wrestling with them for,
Get things, I think they have it now, finally.
Yeah.
But,
It was approved in our payment of bills tonight.
Yeah.
To pay it.
Yeah.
But we didn't actually receive this bill until just recently, is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The other comment I wanted to make is in the information on the auto dialers. It's been brought up a couple times. This looks like a pretty good program to notify the community in an emergency. Are we looking for other avenues to pursue, or?
Yes, we are. And the problem I was explaining to Mr. Spencer before the meeting, each place only goes up to 1,500 people. So anything above that, you have to contact them to get a price for. So we have done that, and each one, when you say I have 3,500 customers approximately, they in turn then want to demo before they will give you a price to explain what they're going to do. So we do currently have appointments upcoming, I believe next week, for demos for those.
Okay.
And then hopefully by next meeting, I'll have good pricing.
Okay. Are there other agencies that offer this service?
There are many, many.
So could we get some comparisons, you think? Or?
Yeah, there should be 3 in there.
Oh, sorry, I only saw the one.
One's Alert Media. We didn't have a price from Alert Media. One's Call Multiplier, and one is Text. They just look the same. 2 of them look the same. There should be 3 there.
Okay, that's my comment.
okay.
Just on the bill, are we stamping bills as we receive them? Because I didn't see a receive stamp, like when we get it. And if we're not, why?
We used to do that when it was in the treasurer's office. I don't know what Josh's process is.
I think we need to implement that back. I didn't see that. Secondly, I got a couple, I appreciate all the attendance tonight, and it's summertime, so I'm happy to see all your smiling faces coming out on a nice evening. To go along with Bob, please support Rockfest if you can. We're trying to do a great community event for the Veterans Memorial. It's all for charity and trying to help develop and promote the town as well. And then this week is Iosco County Fair, so let's try to get out and support the county and our 4-H'ers. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got a couple things too. I had a citizen come in and talk to me about a number of things actually, but one of the things they brought in was our process for real property disposition, the original one that we had. And I know that in the recent meetings, we've had some discussion about it. This process of real property disposition was approved at a board meeting on March 28th by the board. And after the discussion on May 23rd, I wasn't here for that meeting. I believe we were talking about disposing of some property that wasn't listed, and we said that we could change it to make it disposable. Then on the EIC website on May 24th, it was posted a revised process of real property disposition, but I don't know if that was approved at that meeting that I was absent at, or I don't know. So that's what the citizen was asking. I couldn't see anything where you guys had approved something. So I was wondering if Tammy could look at that and see, maybe it's supposed to come back to the board before it gets approved and posted.
I'm not sure what you're referring to, so
Yeah,
I'll
I'll
have
give
to
it
go
to
look
you.
at it. That would
Yeah.
have been something I'd like to see.
Yep, they dropped it off, so I thought I would bring it up. The only other thing I have is the Esabo River Canoe Marathon is this weekend. 120 miles, starts in Grayling, Michigan, and finishes right here in Oscoda. Make sure you get out to support the paddlers. We have a number of local paddlers that are participating. It's always great to have everybody down there and cheer them on at the finish line.
Hey, I had a couple things. In our informational stuff, we have a pamphlet from the Iosco County Veterans Affairs for the millage that's on the agenda. So that is on August 2nd, 2022 ballot. If you have questions about that, again, that information is in our packet. Any questions on that ballot information? So that was in our agenda just as an informational item for anybody that has questions on that being on the ballot. Follow up on Jamie's comments on the canoe marathon. There's also, they would try to do a few events before the start of the race, which is in Grayling, of course, and finishes in Oscoda on Sunday. But there is actually a Dash for Cash that is Tuesday. It is got some pretty good cash prizes for anybody that's entered in the actual marathon, and they're sprints, timed sprints. So that is during, I think it's at 5 o'clock, and you can see there's a bunch of signs and stuff in Esabo Township that indicate that. So it'd be great to come out and support those canoers during that time, except prior to when they come in exhausted on Sunday when they're finishing the race. And then I actually had a couple people reach out to me directly and sing praises, which I should have asked his name before I got here, but we have a new boat launch attendant.
Greg Pingot.
Okay, I've had at least 3 people tell me how amazing he has been at Footsite Park with assisting people there. So I just wanted to indicate that. Yeah, that he, in fact, one of the people that rents boats and stuff and launches them for people that are renting said that he's just been amazing compared to previous people that maybe weren't quite as helpful. So I just want to acknowledge that. And then I actually got a text today from a business owner on Division Street that indicated that she saw a seasonal employee, Derek Young, working and cleaning up a parking lot that had been kind of neglected a little bit this summer. So it's our public parking lot, on Division Street there. And she took the time to text me and say, hey, just wanted to point out, he was really hustling and doing a good job, so I wanted to share that as well. I know we've been struggling for good employees. It's good to see that the public has noticed it and responding back. So anyways, with that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
8:36. No, there's not. I did last call for public comment. Sorry, that's where I was in that section. So I apologize if you didn't hear that. Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn at 8:36.